episode, we're going to explore another Ruby gem. This one is called weather hash. That is weather underscore hash. If we go to the homepage link here on the bottom right, we are brought to the GitHub page that describes how to use the weather hash gem. Again, here at the bottom is the README, which is the documentation. Weather hash. This gem was created to serve as an educational tool to help students understand hashes and arrays using a real-world context. It pulls weather data from the Yahoo Weather API.
It's Arctic air that's dropping in as it meets this warm and moist air coming in off of the Pacific and right along the cold front and the boundary front that will be created. Oh my God!
Let's have a look at your morning commutes, and we've got a couple of issues on the go this morning as we take... Okay, this is my phone, not my clicker. Okay, sorry, that just happened. Okay, serious. How did that happen? Has that ever happened to you before, Russ?
Let's just dive right into it. Installation. Install this gem by running the following command in the terminal. So let's copy and paste this gem install weather hash. The reason why it's taking a moment is because it's actually downloading the gem from the internet. Okay, it successfully installed the gem. Let's return to the documentation. Use this gem inside your code. Now this is actually different from the rainbow hash gem that we encountered previously, because there we used a command that was supposed to be used inside your terminal. That is the rainbow command. It was used directly in your terminal and not in your Ruby code. However, the usage of this gem is entirely different. This is meant to be used within your Ruby code. So if we wrote this command, require weather hash, inside our terminal, the terminal would not recognize it because the require command is not recognized by the terminal. Instead, it is supposed to be recognized by Ruby. So we could write it inside a Ruby file, or we could also write it inside of IRB, which runs Ruby code. Let's start by running it in IRB. Let's put in require weather hash. Here we could see that it returns true. That simply means that the code recognized the weather hash gem. Whenever you use a gem inside your Ruby code, although the gem is actually downloaded and installed on your computer, for your Ruby code to actually utilize the gem, you need a require statement that basically says, this set of code is actually going to use the weather hash gem somewhere inside of our code. Okay, returning to the docs. Weather hash.lookup Chicago, Illinois. And it says the response will be a hash containing current weather data. So let's copy and paste that in here. Again, this is Ruby code. This command would not work directly in the terminal. It needs to be run inside of IRB or inside your code in Sublime Text, which you would then run that Ruby code from your terminal. Okay, so we can see that when we run weather hash.lookup with Chicago, Illinois, we get back this gigantic hash that seems to contain some gobbledygook. But if we look more carefully, we can see, okay, there's a key of something called channel, and the value of that is another hash, which says something about units and distance. And if we dig in more carefully, we can see stuff about location, city Chicago, country United States. Here's something about the wind. The chill is 72, the direction is 95, the speed is 14. Here's data about the atmosphere and humidity and pressure and visibility. Here we can see stuff about astronomy, namely sunrise and sunset. If we dig further into this hash, we'll see stuff about condition, which includes temp, the temperature of 72 degrees Fahrenheit. If we look further, we can also see there's a forecast, whose value is an array of the forecast for the upcoming days in Chicago. So this is really useful stuff. However, to make this even more useful, we would want to write further Ruby code that takes this entire hash and pulls out the appropriate data from it to display in a more friendly format. Let's go ahead and create a new file containing some more substantial Ruby code. Here I've created a new Ruby file called weather.rb. We are going to put the require weather hash line inside as the first line of code in order to say that this code is going to be using the weather hash gem. Then let's paste in that same line of code, weather hash.lookup Chicago, Illinois, and let's start by printing it. And let's run this. So Ruby weather.rb. And this code simply takes that same hash that we received and simply prints it out to the terminal. So this wasn't much more useful than what we did in IRB. But now let's go further. Let's say we wanted to write a program that simply displays the current temperature in Chicago. Well, we saw before that the temperature exists somewhere buried in this hash here as the temperature of 72, but how do we dig that out in our code? Well, to make this a little easier, we can actually use the rainbow hash gem that we learned about in a previous lesson, and let's view this data in a more easy to read format. So I'll type in rainbow and then quotes, and here we can see that it breaks down this hash into more digestible parts. So we can see that the outermost hash contains a key of channel and the value is units. I like doing this one step at a time. So let's say we'll make a variable called data and take this big hash and assign it to that variable. We'll then say pdata channel. That is, let's take the channel key inside that hash and take its value and print that to the terminal. So if we do ruby weather.rb, we get almost the same hash, except that we've dug one level deeper. Let's use this in conjunction with the rainbow command. Okay, so we know that we have to eventually get to this temp 72. Now this yellow hash is inside of this green hash, and it is the value of this key condition. Now this green hash is the value of this key item inside the red hash. So since we're up to the red hash, this red hash is the outermost hash, the next key we want to grab is the item key so that we can grab this green hash so that we can grab this yellow hash. So once we have the channel hash, that is the value from the channel key, which is this whole hash, the next key we want to pull out is item. Let's see what that looks like. So now we definitely have a smaller hash. Let's run this through the rainbow hash gem. And now we're definitely closer because we can see that the temp 72 is second to the top. So now for this outermost hash, all we need to do is grab the condition key in order to get this value of this inner hash. So let's go ahead and do that. And let's run our program. Okay, so we can see if we run ruby-weather.rb, we get this value, which is simply a single hash. To get the temperature, we want to call the temp key. Let's run it again. And we get 72 as a string. That is the current temperature in Chicago. Cool. Let's make this a little fancier.
Bring you on into the temps, and we're all doing okay. Wow, 750 degrees in Gila Bend right now, and 1,270 in Ahwatukee. Now, I'm not authorized to evacuate Ahwatukee, but this temperature seems pretty high. Cave Creek, Fountain Hills, they don't look good either, and frankly, Wickenburg is a total loss. Oh my God. You might as well just get out of anywhere along this 60 years. Very warm. Surprise is starting to heat up as well at 1,300 degrees. So, again, the safe spots seem to be Chandler and Mesa. Scottsdale is doing okay so far, but, you know, you're sort of surrounded by some pretty intense heat. So, I'm not your dad, but I would get out while you still can. I think steel boils at about this temperature, so Cave Creek, there's probably nothing left up there.
The current weather in Chicago is 72, or whatever it happens to be, degrees. And let's put this all on one line. Cool, it worked. Now let's make this program one step better and allow the user to enter their city and state of choice. So let's do this. Welcome to the weather app. Please enter a city, and we'll say city equals gets.chomp. Please enter a state. State equals gets.chomp. And instead of putting these hard-coded strings of Chicago, Illinois, we can simply put in the city and the state. Here we're just referencing the variables that the user entered. Here, instead of saying Chicago, we're going again to reference the city variable. Let's try this out. Welcome to the weather app. Please enter a city. Let's do Albany, New York. The current weather in Albany is 69 degrees. This gem actually gathers the real data from the Yahoo Weather API. An API, by the way, is simply a way to get data from across the internet through code.